And I have two people who are on the screen with me today. I am uh, absolutely in awe of both of them for what they have done with their lives and for this country. And we have Maurice Bridges, who is a vice commander of State of Illinois VFW. He is uh, actually the commander of all of Illinois for the VFW's processes. We have Eugene Blackwell, who is the senior vice commander of the state of Illinois VFW. And I've known Eugene for quite some time. And Maurice has been trying to give me some training on how to drive a car or something like that because he has a nice car. He has a nice car. And
And
anyway, we're going to discuss today the VFW updates. But what I wanted to do was to really talk to these two people because what people need to know, we were just talking to a Purple Heart recipient, and what people need to know is what it means to have two people who committed their lives to this country and the honor that they bring to all of us who wear this uniform because of the service they provided to this country. And this is something that's solemn. It's something that warms my heart every time I think about what these two gentlemen have gone through to make sure this nation is still standing. And for people who don't, understand military service or, you know, listen to what they have to say about their lives, I'm going to start with Commander Maurice Bridges. And I want you to tell me, what has your life been like in the military? What has it done for you? Because there are many young people out there that are trying to decide, what should I do? We have, STEAM coming in now, science, technology, engineering, mathematics exploding. The military has always been in the lead with scientific discoveries, with scientific advancements, and it offers training in multiple disciplines. And many of our veterans who are returning have skills that they could not have gotten in the private sector. So what is it that the military offers people, and how has that impacted your life? And then I'll move on to Colonel Blackwell.
well, I tell you, it has really impacted my life. I went to the military at age 19. Okay, I had graduated from high school. I went to college for a few months. I felt that wasn't the way, and then I saw myself going down a slippery slope that could have had me in jail or either dead. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to the high school I went to and good parents, I knew right from wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I went and took the test to join the Air Force, and that's one of the best things that I could have done. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I'm giving back. I've been blessed. I want to mentor people. I've gained a lot of skills. Another thing that youngsters should realize is that the military will pay your education, pay for your
Mm-hmm.
education. Yes, you're going to get on the job training while you're working, but you can also take something else in school, and that's what I mean. What I mean by that is have plan A and plan B. If plan A don't work, then you have a plan B. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I like to mentor people now. It was my military career was just so successful, and we used to have the draft back in the day, and I kind of
Mm-hmm.
believe that I think we should have the draft maybe for 2 years, and that way to get our youngsters out of the city and visit other countries or other places. Uh, as you know, I'm born and raised from Chicago. I
Mm-hmm.
know there are kids in Chicago that's never been downtown. Okay,
Yeah.
not I'm not talking about just leaving the city, but when you get away from your environment that you are born and raised in, you get to see other things, other areas where you can learn and prosper and grow. Um, This is one thing I will never forget, and I thought about this earlier, Doctor.
Mm.
Okay. When I went to the military at age 19, my wife was 17. Okay.
Wow. Wow.
We grew up in the projects in Chicago. Okay. Um, our first duty station, well, my first duty station was in Selma, Alabama. Okay.
Mm.
We lived in off base housing, but my wife, our next door neighbor, they were white, and his wife had never experienced anybody black before.
Hmm.
These are two people from total different, lifestyles.
Hmm.
After about 3 months, they became friends,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
and I will never ever forget that. I mean, when they first met each other, they just looked at each other like, uh,
Hmm.
you know. So, but
That's the human condition of being an American, and that's what we have to get back to. This division we have going on right now, and this
hmm
divisiveness in this nation is a cancer we've got to eradicate. We've got to get it out of our system
exactly.
because everyone's survival depends on that. We talk about global warming and all the impacts that are happening to communities with hurricanes.
hmm
And, and here's one thing I used to say in the military. Yeah, I remember someone told me this one time, and it was I was getting my training down in Alabama, and there were a couple of people who were from the Air Force and from the Navy and all that. And one of the helicopter pilots said, he said, what do you do if you're in the Army and you see a Navy helicopter land? He said, get your ass on it so you can get out. I didn't mean to curse.
Yeah, yeah. I understand. Yeah, yeah. We are all Americans when we overseas and fighting.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really apropos
Yeah.
thing to say. I'm gonna move on to Colonel Blackwell. I know him for years. He is a stellar person. I mean, I'm in awe of Eugene every time I see him, and it looks like he's sitting in his man cave down there too. Uh, I want to emulate that, to get something like that in my pocket. But Eugene is a pharmacist extraordinaire. He was over the Strategic National Stockpile. He's over so many things for the pharmaceutical side of things for the country, and he also is in Alpha Phi Alpha. So he's done a lot of things for community service and all that. But we've experienced a lot of things together. But from your perspective, how do you see your military career? What has it meant to you?
Well, my first of all, thank you for having me on again.
Okay.
Uh, the military career for me, it opened up my eyes globally.
Uh-huh.
As you recall, the overseas deployment that we had over to Bolivia,
Yes.
believe me, that was the first time I ever been on the plane.
Ah,
Okay.
I didn't realize that.
Yes, on the plane. I grew up on the west side of Chicago. I
Yeah.
went to grammar school, high school, and graduated from college on the west side of Chicago. I've been out the city before by driving, but I had never been on a plane. When I got into the military, my first overseas deployment was to Bolivia. And at that time, Bolivia had the world's highest infant mortality rate. That
Mhm.
was one of the reasons why we had a medical mission
Mhm.
there to Bolivia.
Mhm.
Well, when we got to Bolivia, it opened my eyes up and made me appreciate the country where I came from. Because when you see how people live in third world countries like Bolivia,
Mhm.
where as you recall, they would take our scraps and use them for something good, like the boxes that we had for our MREs. They took those boxes home and they
Mhm.
used it in their pantries, for example,
Wow.
or
Wow.
they take the
Wow.
food. But
Yeah.
and they didn't have all of the medical stuff that we have.
Mhm.
So they were every village that we've gone to, it was very crowded. They were very anxious to see that they had Americans over there giving them medical treatment. But
Eugene, I just want to say one thing, but that's such an important point because we take so many things for granted here. We eat 3 meals a day. We go to bed at night. Everything we have over here. If you go to a lot of the countries we visited over time, we are so blessed in this country, and people don't realize that. And part of the reason why you have that blessing is because of what the military has represented for this country, the protectionism it's offered this country, and making sure that people are safe at night. And the military service members like yourself and like Maurice, I mean, this is one great thing. And let's interject one other quick thing is that Maurice, I was wondering why when we got on that plane going to Bolivia, he was looking for the seatbelt. He didn't know where the seatbelt was. And now I understand why, but I'll turn it back over to you, Eugene.
Yeah, no, yeah. And so, we're at this mission, and we're talking to, you know, the Guatemalans there. Of course, they speak Spanish, but we had interpreters, and we kind of learned their way of life. We try to eat some of the meals that they had, provided that they were kosher. We didn't drink the water, for example, because we knew that we would get sick.
Right.
As a matter of fact, we didn't even brush our teeth with that water. We had to use bottled water.
Yes.
But they were some of the nicest people. And as I recall, some of the feedback from the physicians that were treating some of these Guatemalans, they said that they were cleaner than the patients that they had back at home. But of course, they had that spot up in the mountains. Bolivia was at a high altitude.
Right.
So they had these hot spas that they would take baths in. And as a matter of fact, they invited us to take them as well, too. And it was very soothing.
Yeah, because we were about like 14, 16,000 feet with altitude sickness and that kind of thing. Yeah.
I remember like 3 days before we deployed there, we had to take this drug called acetazolamide, which was a carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, which allowed you to build up your red blood cells so that you can breathe much easier when you go to high altitudes.
Hey, Maurice, we just got an education from a pharmacist, a crack pharmacist. I'm not sure if we're going to memorize all that stuff, but going back to you, Maurice, you are an aircraft mechanic. I mean, I just look at it and go like, I can't even tell. I see 2 wings. That's about it, and a cockpit. So, but you knew how to put planes together and to do that. That's a hell of a skill.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. When I first joined and I went to aircraft mechanic school, I was a crew chief. Okay. Basically, a crew chief is just a person that takes care of the aircraft, check it out before flight and after flight, check the oil, check the tire pressures and stuff like that. And after a couple of years, I got bored with that. Okay. And I talked to my supervisor. Matter of fact, I'll never forget. I was in Lakenheath, England. I was working on an aircraft called the F4, and I talked to my supervisor. I says, you know what? I'm not getting a challenge out of this. I'm just doing the same thing over and over. And so what came out of that? They sent me to a repair shop. It was called AR shop. It was aerospace repair. Okay. They eventually changed the name, but anyway, that shop, what we did in that shop, we worked on the flight controls and the landing gear and the engine controls. So a lot of times I did not work unless the aircraft was broke. So I really got a challenge out of that because take off because I knew I worked on it.
Yeah.
Now when I got to O'Hare, I used to work on the KC-135s at O'Hare in Chicago.
Wow.
I was a flight control specialist there. I'll never forget the first time where I had to tear the flight control systems. They were cables, remove controls, and put them all back together. And there's a special operation. You have to have a special flight after you do so much intensive maintenance. And it was called a FCF, which is a functional guard unit. They had never experienced anyone that tore an airplane down to the bone like that.
Wow.
So it was so many people out in the back on that flight line watching that airplane take off after I worked on it. And I was just so proud to stand there and see that airplane take off at a level flight,
No.
okay, with no
Right.
issues. And I'm just going to step back. This is one of my favorite aircraft I used to work on.
Uh-oh.
That's an F-11F over in Lincoln Heath, England. But I had to do that.
Woo.
I'm sorry.
That looks like a
I am
mean plane.
Yeah, I am really proud of my talent and what I learned in the military. I could have went to the airlines. I could have went to the American Airlines, United. I am a certified A&P, which is an airframe power plant mechanic. Okay.
Wow. Wow.
But I really like the military, and I'm going to tell you something. Uh, when you travel and been stationed at different places, you meet people.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And you meet people that you want to be friends with for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've got a lot of friends that I contact every once in a while that from England, from all over. My first duty station was in Selma, Alabama, and I
Mhm.
survived, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's phenomenal. Yeah, because that.
you know,
Mhm.
and if anybody wants to go in the military, I really I really want to say to you, try it out. Okay. You know, if you go in, when you pick a career field that you can utilize if you don't want to stay in the military.
Right.
Air Force and the Navy, they will teach you the technical career fields. Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But that's an important point because I remember, when people used to come into the unit and they would say, I'd say, well, if you want to join the unit, you need to have a school. What school are you in? And they go like, what school? I need to be in school to go to join a unit. And I said, I would say, yeah, you do. Now here's a book. You need to pick something. And they said, well, what if I don't know what I want? You pick something because you're going to have another tool on your belt, but you're going to have a belt.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
going to pick something.
Yeah.
So when you go into the military, if you have a career objective and really think about it, whether you want to be a computer science technician or
Hmm.
you want to be a pharmacist or a doctor or aircraft mechanic, you can become that, and you could become. You could hear the level of confidence in your voice, Maurice. Many times we think that we're locked out from things, that we can't succeed in certain
Hmm.
disciplines because we haven't been given the option or we haven't been given the opportunity. But if you have the access to it and you uh, focus on what you want to do, that can carry you so far in the military. You'll be astounded.
Hmm.
So that's something really with think about. But Eugene, how were commander of multiple different units. When you're in the military. So what was your experience with working with people and other people who were as we say in the military, your children, I guess, but the ones your special children that you had to command and take care of.
But one thing I can say about the times when we're in the unit is that everybody pulled their weight when
Hmm.
when the time came to do so.
Hmm.
Not just the male, but also the females. We had the females, putting up these GP largers. You
Oh,
know,
ooh, those big tents, yeah.
yeah, those big tents. So they became ward tents. So if we had an influx of patients coming in and they need to be treated, then we had to set up ward tents for them to be housed. So during the setup, everybody carried their weight. When we had missions, we coordinated with the ambulance company. They did the ground evacuations. They transported them. Either they got treated out in the field, or if not, they got brought back to us for more definitive treatment. If we couldn't do anything, of course, we evacuated them to a high echelon and so forth. But all in all, I think everybody pulled their weight. And of course, we did a lot of cross training.
Hmm.
So if you didn't have enough, what they call the 68 whiskeys now, but they were 91 Bravos before
Hmm. Hmm.
the combat, the medics. If you didn't have enough of them, then you recruited someone who was a low density MOS, and if you needed that person, they can cross train to do that MOS as well.
Mm-hmm.
You had the labs, you had the pharmacy, you had the OR tech, you had the dental tech, and so on. Each one of them were able to, cross train into each one of those fields.
Yes,
And
yeah,
some of them went on and they went to school and got more exposed to the didactic training for it, and some of them use that training on the outside. Working
yeah,
with,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I think it was. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because that's really interesting, Eugene. Because I don't think the women in our military get enough recognition for what they do. But women are becoming more. You're hearing more and more about their involvement in the service overall. All the branches of the service, and but doing astounding things too. Right beside men, and are very competent and do great things. And those skills that you're talking about, Eugene, it's like that's when we start talking about the transitional programs coming over. We're going to be talking to Honorable James D. Rodriguez in a moment, but he is the U.S. Department of Labor's Veterans Employment and Training Services lead. He's the assistant secretary. So he actually is over these transitions programs, and those skills are transferable. And it also we have someone from the DAV here, and we have also VSO officers, veteran service officers in the VFW post and American Legion. But for those people who are in the VFW post who've actually gone through combat, it's really essential for you to join your group. We're a family, and we miss you. You need to be joining the VFW, and there's so many different benefits that you can get from doing that. I know I go to the meetings, and I really feel great all the time about doing that. But what do you think about the family dimension of this? I consider everyone in the military a family member. At this.
Well, we can't forget about the auxiliary. The
Yes.
VFW auxiliary, they're always supportive. So for
Yes.
each member that you bring into the military, there are potential 4 to 6 members that you can get that can join the auxiliary.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right.
And of course, when you get those briefings from the service officers, the veteran
Right.
service officers about all kind of benefits that not only that the veteran get, but also the veteran's family. They get benefits as well, and they need to know that information.
Yes, yes, yes. And so Maurice, what do you envision for this coming year as far as how does this change the way you see the world? How you're living. So not just a VFW, but having gone through this, you said that you were like love the mentorship and those kinds of things. Uh, does that change how you view our youth? Because many times we sort of put the youth down, and people don't give them much credit for what they're going through. But should we be trying to encourage them to be all they can be?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think Maurice is green. But Eugene, you can chime in on that because I saw you nodding your head.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
they
we can-
should be
can-
encouraged to be all they can be. And one thing about the youth today is that they are exposed to so much information, and a lot of times, they can't, handle a lot of information that's thrown at them. Uh, but of course, I think the younger people excel more in the technology today than we do.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? And they're able to use that technology. And when they use it for the benefit of the good, then that works good for humanity.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, this is really something because I could be sitting down with you guys all night long. We have 2 minutes to go, but every time I start talking to you two, it's like my time evaporates, and I'm like in another dimension here. But I'm going to start out with any last words, Eugene, that you want to give, short comment, and then we'll move on to Maurice, the commander of the VFW for Illinois. But anything you want to say that you want to encourage these people about the military career?
Yeah, I encourage those who are thinking about the military to, to check it out, to find out, if it's a good fit for them. And I think, everyone should do military service. Everyone should do military service. Give back, to your country.
Yeah, and that the discipline and the training you get from that is you can't replace it. And Maurice?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And I would like to leave this message. We must mentor our teenagers, especially the ones in high school. Let's support the Scouts. Let's support the Silver Air Patrol. And last but not least, we must support the Junior ROTC. Okay? Because I was in ROTC or I was in high school. So that gave me motivation to continue my service.
Phenomenal. And look at what turned out to happen. Two geniuses, two incredible honor, people
I don't know
honor.
about geniuses.
Well, I'm going to give you the genius thing, because if I could end up playing like that's behind you, I want to make sure that you were working on it.